Welcome to the Pay Love Forward podcast. My name is Dr. Matthew Leavenworth, founder and director of Pay Love Forward. This series shares the stories of Montana's quiet builders of compassion, those who choose to lead with courageous authenticity. At Pay Love Forward, our mission is to build compassionate communities for the at-risk and underserved through mentorship. This podcast is one way we live out that mission. Pay Love Forward is partnered with Resilient Stories, an organization dedicated to amplifying the voices of courage, recovery, and renewal across Montana. Together, we're committed to hearing the story within the story, the deeper narrative of resilience that connects us all. This series on story as nonviolent resistance has been about one thing: who controls the narrative landscape, and what does it mean to tell an authentic story? This episode was recorded in May of 2026, right before the pivotal June primaries and November elections, where we're faced with the daunting reality of the level of bad faith influence and deception surrounding politics. In the age of AI, dark money, news networks that act like propaganda machines, and billionaires that seem to care about only one thing: more power and wealth, how can we possibly know who to trust? This episode is a recorded Zoom rally for Alani Bankhead's volunteers. Unpacking and understanding the structure of how this was set up is essential. It's one thing to tell a better story, but it only matters if people are listening. This episode demonstrates multiple converging techniques that can improve reach and engagement, and can be replicated by any candidate. These kinds of tactics are things future storytellers will have to account for in order to get the right stories to translate. I live streamed this on my Facebook account. Multiple live streams would improve engagement, as demonstrated in the previous episode, Asymmetrical Warfare. We also sent out invites beforehand, announcing it on Facebook and inviting anyone to log on via Zoom. Because of the multiple angles of engagement, we were able to translate this to a significant audience that wasn't just confined to this podcast release or the live stream Zoom. This is more didactic than story-driven itself. In this episode, we cover three things: a pitch for Alani, Alani's story and her why, and the campaign outreach coordinator. Any candidate can do any of this with their team. Russ Cleveland did something very similar on his 42nd birthday. For candidates, this kind of Zoom meeting is an incredible way to charge up your change makers who are out there campaigning for you and to say thank you. For our live stream, I decided not to use recording equipment to demonstrate how easily this can be replicated. Literally, you only need a computer, a Zoom account, and a Facebook account. Help us get this information out there. Democracy needs it. Please share this episode or any other episode that's inspired you. Better yet, and get out there and create a better story. Start a podcast. Get involved with Spark to Heal. Tell a story of compassion and kindness at your dinner table. The world needs better stories. It needs better storytellers, and you can be one of them. Join the movement. Join us with Resilient Stories and Pay Love Forward in our effort to start lifting up the best in who we are by telling those types of stories. Anybody can do this. The world needs better stories. The world needs better storytellers, and Pay Love Forward and Resilient Stories intends to support, train, and deploy them. It. Awesome. Well, so I'm sure some more folks will hop on kind of as we go, but like we're gonna get rocking. And so this is just it's a call to action. That's what we're doing. This is a call to get people engaged, to deploy people, that this is a pivotal moment in our history. And I'm gonna make the case for why I've just chosen to support you truly and with everything that I have. And it's because, well, the first was that, when I called, you agreed to sit down with me for 3 hours. And I think that this has truly been like all of us are scared. We're worried. We see Iran. We're taking out, presidents in South America, like whether this, gas prices, like whatever it is, we're just like watching the world spin out of control, and it's hard to know what to do. And so, but also, like, come November, our country's going to have to make some really pivotal decisions. And I certainly believe that the fate of democracy is probably going to be decided in November. And if we can't pull back from the brink right now and put some significant checks and balances like this, this administration has just shown every indication that it is authoritarian, that it wants to be authoritarian, that every opportunity it gets to obtain more power and to repress more people, it has taken. And the checks and balances that we've had so far like have kind of stood up and been a buffer against that, but it's eroding. Like we can just feel it eroding. And there's fewer and fewer of those checks and balances. And I fundamentally personally believe that November will just be like, do we get to keep democracy or not? And so for me, and with Alani specifically, like I called you and asked you to come on my podcast, and we sat down for 3 hours. And that in and of itself it's a testament, right? That you have a story to tell, and that you are who you say you are. And that to me is like, that's one of the things I'm searching for. Like I'm looking for candidates. I'm looking for people who are what they say they are, because God, we need that so badly, right? Like we're so tired of being lied to. We're so tired of being defrauded. We're so tired of being told one thing only to find out that something else is true. And just the obvious, like this is just one of the most obvious examples. I mean, I remember Trump making fun of Obama because he was certainly going to get us in a war with Iran because he couldn't negotiate. And then I remember MAGA stampeding around talking about how we're not going to get into any more endless foreign wars. And then like months later, that's what we're doing. And so like just the level of contradiction, but it's the contradiction on their end is fine, but like we're just tired of being lied to. And so this has been my personal search is finding authentic people. And so that's the first thing that I would say is that just go listen to that podcast, because Alani is who she says she is. And you're a fighter and you're a patriot and you're somebody who has truly invested your life in support of our country. And I think for you as a defender of the flag, to be where we're at right now and to be tilting towards things that just aren't who America is I think that's probably part of why it is that you have stepped up as a leader. And so the conversation is so beautiful, but I want to tell at least one more story, because to me, this is truly it's like the manifestation of who you are as a candidate. But we did a second podcast, which has been about a woman who went missing in Billings. Her name is Jamie, and she went missing in 2012. The story came to me and it broke my heart, and I just felt like I felt like I had to do something, and so use my platform to tell that story. And you have participated in that, and really it's a call to justice for Jamie, but also for Taylor, who is her daughter and wants to know what happened to her mom 14 years ago, and deserves that from our community and deserves that answer. And Billings is suffering right now. We had another murder, pretty high profile of Shauna, and so many of us went to that vigil, and it just is, it's heartbreaking. And we also know that we can do better. And so we had a news, we did this podcast, and, in part because you participated and your name's fairly high profile, the news has picked it up. It's a call to justice for Jamie. And so I showed up the newsroom, and you showed up a little bit later, but you literally drove 3 hours to come do the interview, not for your campaign, but just to support this young woman who just deserves those answers and deserves a community that wraps around her. And to me, it was just a profound testament to who you are. And not only that, but you've brought in a friend of yours from the FBI, and you've given us resources. And like, this is you literally fighting for a woman who has been a victim of injustice. And that's who you are, Alani. You're a bad guy hunter. That's what you know how to do. And so to me, that is also a part of why I'm so committed to your campaign, and also committed to our friendship, and committed to supporting you in any way that I can. But I don't know, like, you go to bat, and you go to bat for the little guy. And so I'll hand it over to you too. And I mean, you can talk about your reasons and why you're in this, but we need that more than anything. Somebody who's willing to stand up for the little guy, because it's all big guy right now. It's all billionaire. It's all, it's all corporate greed. It's all data center. It's all dark money. It's all of these things that are conspiring. And we need somebody who's willing to stand up for the little guy. My son is one of those little guys. I mean, I have a son with Down syndrome, and he's fought leukemia, and so I need that. My family needs that. And not only that, but you have a skill set that I just can't wait to send to Washington. Like, it just tickles me pink to think of you headed there. I mean, you're special ops. Your career is putting your life on the line, but doing it with a skill set that is very, very unique. And a training level that just puts you in a caliber of position that few are. And so I don't know, that's my pitch. Like, Yeah, I just can't wait to send you to Washington. And so I'll hand it over to you, and you can kind of talk about your campaign. But the last thing that I would say is that we are calling people to engage with us, and Bailey's going to talk a little bit about what that looks like on the ground. Because that's what we need. We need people knocking doors. We need people posting online. We need people talking about this. Because I know you've driven about 1,000,000 miles now. You've gone to every campaign speech. You've gone everywhere. But really, it's like you've done your part, and now this is democracy. It's up to the rest of us to carry that message forward as well. And Bailey, I can't think of anybody who's more hardcore about it than you are. But I want to, like, because we need to talk about what that actually looks like. And I think it's also a call to, like, do what you can, right? Like, we all have different capacities and talents, and I'm exploring this idea of taking the narrative back from all of the bad actors that are trying to tell our stories for us right now. And I'm just in search of an authentic story, and in search of authentic leaders. And Bailey, like you know how to pound the pavement. You know how to get out there and do those things. And some of us we're real active on social media, and so we're asking you, share those things that you see that come across your feed. We're asking you to write those posts that say, you met with Alani when she was out there on her tour, and she listened to you and she heard you, and why it is that you support her, because I know there's so many of us that do. And so, Alani, I'll let you take it from there. But this is a call to action. We're asking you to go out there and beat this drum with us.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, Matt. You are always so generous with your intros. And it's such an honor to be here with you and Bailey. And before I launch into my spiel, I would love to just start for the audience and just saying, like, the changes that we always seek start with very humble beginnings, and just like Matt was saying, offering whatever you can to the fight. And everybody has their specific gift that they have to offer, right? And we were talking before we hit record. I've done a lot of really dangerous things to protect life in my past, and we always made the magic happen with less than 5 people. And it was literally like, I know you said special ops, but I feel like I'm a pretty normal person, right? I just care and tried, and some magic came out of it. And I got to partner with other amazing humans to do that. And Montana has such a high density of amazing, badass humans who care. And I'm sitting right here with 2 of them, and I'm just so thankful and honored and really humbled to get to do this. It's funny because often you think of politicians being correlated more with power. And actually, this has been one of the most humbling things I've ever done, because rather than me serving all the time and giving, I have to learn how to receive the generosity and the kindness and the time that amazing humans want to offer. And that is, for any service-oriented person, very difficult to do. The other thing I want to say about Montana is we've also been lucky enough to work with down ballot folks all over the state. And there are a lot of first-time candidates just like me, a lot of people looking around saying things are not going well, and I don't have all the answers, but I want to fight and I want to do something. And the humility that they bring. I've heard over and over again, I feel like I'm behind. I feel like I'm not quite qualified. I feel like I'm not good enough. That imposter syndrome is really loud. I actually specialize in leadership development and imposter syndrome specifically. And so I get the joy of telling you guys today that if you're feeling those feelings and having those thoughts, congratulations. It actually means you're the creme de la creme of leadership, because the best leaders are the ones who are always going to look for their blind spots and hone in on those and mitigate those weaknesses, right? The ones that we have in DC and in other places right now don't have that humility. And that's how we ended up here, right? Is the average person won't run for office because they're like, why would I get in that swamp? Which is totally I get it, right? But I'm just super excited, and I can't wait to introduce Bailey in a second. I know for the audience, I'm going to just really quick share my a little bit about my background if folks have heard of me but maybe aren't super familiar with me. And I like visuals, so I have a PowerPoint. But I am Alani Bankhead. I'm running for US Senate. I've hunted terrorist, spies, and child sex abusers all over the world, and I was a senior Pentagon bodyguard. So I always love showing this Pentagon picture up here, because It's me and part of the team that worked for me in front of one of the boss's jets. And as you can see, one of these things is not like the other. And I learned through that time period that your strength actually has nothing to do with your physical projection. It has to do with how you use your brain to tackle the mission. And so that was a really important season for me. And I hope that that translates to Montana, that it doesn't matter what you think your weaknesses are. Any little bit you can offer to your community is so incredibly powerful and will leave massive impacts. I have deployed. I was the person with briefcases full of money that you see in the movies that meets with informants in secret and gets intelligence, and they give it to special operations. That was kind of the beginning of the end for me in terms of being in Iraq, and I knew why we were there. And for me, my mission was more protecting the man and woman to the left and right of me. So counterintelligence agents, our job is to make sure that there are no attacks or there's no espionage operations against U.S. service members and innocent people. And so obviously I'm young and I'm like, something smells kind of fishy here. Like, I feel like this really isn't about, democracy 100%. And later on, of course, my intuition was affirmed when I read Robert Gates's book. So he was a Secretary of Defense at the time. The book is called Duty. And he talked about the strategy. He's like, we weren't quite sure what we were doing. And it was, really tough. And so, that's when I really started to realize that our national leaders are human just like us, and they're doing the best that we can. And so anyway, like that started my journey to really challenging the notions that I was fed my whole life. So now I'm retired from the Air Force. I have a leadership development business. I go all over the United States and all over the world training justice seekers on how to overcome their fear. And about half my portfolio is teaching justice systems, so law enforcement officers, prosecutors, judges, how to better protect their communities from child sex exploitation online. And so I was in Costa Rica and Jamaica last year doing that. It was really amazing. I worked with different entities in Montana as well. And in the bottom right here, you can see one of my 5-man dream teams. It was literally 2 analysts, an investigator, and a prosecutor. And I always need a prosecutor, right? Because we have to prosecute those cases. But these are just folks, you can see they look just like you and me, and they're, not superheroes. I mean, they are, but like they're just very humble people. And if you ask them, they would say what they did was not a big deal. These are some of the operations that I've worked. So I was the Deputy Internet Crimes Against Children commander in Hawaii, and it covered all the Pacific American territories as well. Keiki in Hawaiian means child, so Operation Child Shield was one of the ops that I created. It's your to catch a predator operation, and then we did Operation Shine the Light, which is our missing and runaway foster kid recovery operation. And unfortunately, 100% of the kids that we recovered were actually trafficked. And I chose to do these operations because children are the most vulnerable in our society. And especially foster kids are some of the most forgotten members of our society, and they don't have advocates. And so, this might seem big to you guys, but I promise you, leading up to my first one, I wanted to throw up every day. It was really scary and it was really hard, and I was really worried we were going to mess it up. But once you have that first proof of concept, and you see the magic happening, that's when everybody wants to get on board. And I think Montana's in that space right now. I think Montana's in what I call like theory mode, right? Where we have our congressional delegation we're not happy with, or not showing up to talk to us. They're not voting on our behalf. And Montanans are asking themselves, can we actually get these guys out? And we can. I think everybody on this call believes that we can. But to your point, Matt, it takes all of us, right? And I would not run in any other state other than Montana, because nobody does grassroots better than Montana. So I can sit here and propose all the best policies in the world, but if the people aren't willing to stand with us as we're building this, then that's when it doesn't work, right? So regardless as to whether you choose me or choose a different candidate, I think the point is, do your research, get behind your candidate. I hope you choose me. And then we get to work in building a better Montana. I'm married. My husband is retired active duty. He's also an agent, and he actually was an EPA agent. So he investigated clean air, clean water violations. Unfortunately, he was impacted by Doge last year. I'm sure you guys saw on the news that the Trump administration turned off tens of thousands of investigations at the federal level, and a lot of his cases were turned off. So those are people poisoning water sources, poisoning our environment and our public lands. And none of those cases are going to see justice because the administration decided they didn't want to protect the environment. I have a bonus daughter, Olivia. She's amazing. She's a junior in high school, and she is so flipping smart, man. And she's such a good kid. I mean, I don't know how I got so lucky, but literally half the time I'm like, do you want to sneak out? Like, do you want to like play hooky or something from school? She's just such an amazing kid. And then, of course, I'm third generation military. Everybody in my family is military, law enforcement, or both, or married to it, including our dog. So Lulu's a retired police canine. She retired in February with me. She finds evidence in child pornography cases. So she finds digital media. And she's actually right here taking a nap with me. So she's always my little battle buddy. And she's been campaigning with me as well. But the basic platform items, so accountability, which we talked about. It's really important that we hold government accountable. That means talking to constituents, voting on behalf of Montanans, and holding the administration accountable for what they've been doing. So all the insider trading, all the kickbacks, all the corruption, the Epstein files is the other big elephant in the room. I've actually put corrupt government officials in jail for child exploitation. So this is not new territory to me. I'm also big on affordability. Obviously, this is the dominating headline for Montana. Everybody's struggling to put food on the table and a roof over their heads right now. And we have several policy positions, which you can find on our website, about things that we're going to do to hold government accountable in terms of providing the oversight that's required to make sure that government is providing services as they should. That means getting private equity out of housing and healthcare. That means restructuring things so people aren't paying $800-900 a month in healthcare with a $10,000 deductible, which is freaking nuts. I can't believe it. So ultimately, with the campaign, we know that the studies all show if you can infuse the economy on Main Street, everybody does better overall. So and then my third main point is protecting the vulnerable. Obviously, I've talked about the Epstein files, but frankly, everybody's vulnerable right now. Our senior citizens, nobody works harder than a Montanan. And after decades of working their butts off, it is infuriating to me that people on Social Security have to go to work still when you should be enjoying your later years. Our children are vulnerable. I believe the children of Montana deserve the best quality education on the planet. And we're 50th in the country in terms of teacher starting pay, which is unacceptable to me. Talked about education a little bit already. Public lands are vulnerable. I don't know why we have to say this. No sale of public lands ever. I saw the corner crossing news yesterday and today. I don't know if you guys saw that, but the lieutenant governor came out and was like, no, corner crossing is not legal. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like what part of everybody should be able to access public lands do you not understand? And obviously no exploitation of public lands for profit ever. Our agriculture community. Oh my goodness. When we go to the rural areas and we talk to these folks, it is heartbreaking hearing their stories. I don't have to be in ag to respect the people who put food on my table. They are already operating at razor thin margins. Like a lot of folks are really struggling with their mental health. They don't have financial safety nets. So we're developing policies so they can get 0% or low interest loans. We want to start developing more of those co-ops, right? Like Matt Rains developed the first co-op in the country for the ag community. And more places want to do that, but they need a safety net. So we're kind of proposing an FDIC insurance equivalent for agriculture folks. But the bottom line is we've got to protect this community. And frankly, they're pretty upset with the administration. They're telling us, you're not seeing Trump signs around the state hardly anymore. People who have voted Republican their whole life are now saying that they just can't anymore. And so those are kind of the basic policy items, and a little bit about me. But ultimately, anybody who is here and watching, like, Team Billings, it is such an honor every time I get to come down there. Just the most amazing humans. And, Pay Love Forward has had incredible events in the past. And I love the way that that mission supports our youth, right? But I've also had the opportunity through Matt to meet other amazing humans. And we've talked to different folks in government and talked about their struggles. And we've talked about how the federal legislature can support Billings a lot better. And so that's what we're trying to build here. And I'm going to pass it over to extraordinaire in organizing, Bailey Desper. And so Bailey is by far the most experienced political person on
Yeah.
this panel,
Yeah,
right?
100%, right?
And just so thankful for, Bailey's passion is organizing and activating people. Matt's passion is storytelling. My passion is protecting the vulnerable. Everybody has their little bit to play. And Bailey especially has just been incredible in honing in on people's expertise and getting them to offer it. So Bailey, I'm going to pass it over to you.
Well, thank you guys. Thank you, Alani. Thank you, Matt, for having me on this call tonight. And it's a pleasure to be a part of your campaign, Alani. And, one of the biggest things that I think makes you relatable as a candidate on the doors is your dedication to duty and to protect the Constitution against both foreign and domestic. And talking to both Republican and Democratic voters, that is the number one thing that inspires them to support you as a candidate. And I being on the ground talking to voters is the best way to not only get to know your neighborhood, but to get to know what issues are impacting your local community directly, whether it's the cost of food, the cost of gas, housing, childcare, whatever it might be. You get to hear a lot of different stories, and that's what not only inspires me to be a part of your campaign, but it inspires others to be out there knocking doors for you as well. It takes a village to really make a campaign work. And the three of us have been really kind of trying to get that message out there for you, Alani, and get people activated, not only on social media, but within their own communities themselves. I'm personally asking volunteers, whether it's an hour of your day or a half hour, just go out there and knock your local neighborhood. Talk to your local neighbors. Your neighbors make a big difference about, where that trickle down effect that we were talking about earlier, that ripple effect, how that ripples out into your community where, one person's talking about this, the other person's talking about that. And before you know it, everybody's on Team Alani. And that is the phenomenal part about being a part of your campaign. And, I just, like Matt touched earlier, we all have a part to contribute to this campaign. We're all like an instrument. And one of my favorite quotes is by Dr. Martin Luther King is that, that instrument aspect of things is that when we can set our differences aside to unite around a shared effort, we become essentially like a beautiful orchestra. And through that, we together demonstrate that love is stronger than hate. And we can send a strong candidate to Washington to not only represent Montana, but the values of everybody that lives here, whether it's housing, it's agriculture, it's crime prevention, so forth. We all have different issues that we're passionate about. Let's come together and let's get Alani to Washington.
Oh my gosh, Bailey, that's so kind of you. And to your point, it's interesting because so often people say, I feel like the thing I want to do is not enough, right? So whether it's hosting a fundraiser or knocking on doors or whatever, I had someone recently, they're like, I want to host an event at my house, but I'm worried only a couple people are going to show up. And I was like, if one person shows up, like, I'm there, because it is about every individual and their effort matters. And
Well, and these primaries are decided by hundreds of votes very frequently. And so, your impact, whether it's 1, 2, 10, or 20, is like an enormous percentage of those margins. And I just can't, there's nothing that is too little. Like, that's not a thing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so, whatever folks want to offer, and I do get a lot of messages where people want to volunteer, but they're like, I don't want to overpromise and underdeliver kind of thing. And I'm like, if you can give 5 minutes of your day, I'm thankful. It's literally like any tiny little bit that you want to offer. And that's the other thing is, I'm not, and I don't think anybody here is the kind of person that's like gonna work people to death. It's hey, for me, this campaign is focused on the love that we have for our communities, and it can be scary to offer that. But in whatever way you want to do that, do it. We got a donation, a $1 donation from a guy who works at Costco in Helena this week. And I sent him an email and I was like, thank you so much for the donation. And, he was like, oh, it's only $1. And I'm like, that is massive. And I'm just really thankful for your investment, because that means a lot, especially in this economy, So just super, super kind. Like every tiny little bit is like moving mountains for us, and super, super thankful. And I see Ashley's on there.
Yeah. And so I just was like texting with Ashley and asked, can you talk for just 2 seconds, Ashley? You're like literally driving a car right now. I can't.
Hello.
Hey, Ash.
I'm on my way to do duty, so Bob's driving, so I'm not.
You're not actually actively driving. Ashley, so I kind of just told the story of how Alani has participated in, our call for justice for Jamie. And I was just wondering if you could talk a little bit about, what that's meant to you guys and even Taylor. And like, I even watched in the newsroom when we went and did the interview, like Taylor's shoulders just kind of straightened, and like just the way that she looked up to Alani, like with that, just that admiration, like it just gave her the confidence to go do what is one of the most courageous acts that I just think so highly of Taylor. And I'm just curious, Ashley, what it's meant to you, and maybe even just tell the story a little bit of what it is that we're doing.
Yeah, so my little sister, Jamie Grossman, went missing in 2012 here in Lockwood, Montana. It's been an open cold case since then. No leads, no nothing. And I was connected to Matt through my tattoo artist, Sunshine. And then Matt connected me to Alani. And I loved her immediately. Like, I told her I want to be like her, and so did my husband. I was like, I want to be like you when I grow up. And she's like, you already kind of are. And I was like, well, not really. Like, I don't do what you do. But she's been so inspiring and so courageous and welcoming and just supportive of it, and willing to drive from Helena for a television interview with me and Taylor, knowing that her support means a lot to Taylor and to me, because she doesn't have to take that time. She doesn't have to be that person. She doesn't have to offer those resources. She doesn't have to waste gas when it's $4.49 a gallon. But she actually cares. Like, she's demonstrated that she cares. She goes. I've watched her Facebook. I've watched all the locations that she's been to, and how she greets everybody. She doesn't have her nose up in the air. She's not discriminatory against anybody. She's just welcoming and kind to everybody. And I think that is something that we need in politics, for sure. And we need it in life in general. Part of the podcast we talked about was being a good neighbor. And if you see something, say something. If you hear something, say something. Domestic violence, human trafficking, gangs, all of that stuff is brought worse. It's made worse by silence. And I think that, she wants to bring a voice and try to bring solutions to our community in Montana.
Yeah. Well, and is actively doing that. I mean, we're meeting Monday with Derek, that's what he does, right? An FBI agent, and so, like, I mean, the resources that you've already, like, this isn't hypothetical. This isn't a campaign slogan. We're like actively doing these things right now, and that's a call to justice. Our nation needs justice. Our community needs justice, and so this is an act of standing up and pursuing that.
Yeah. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, you guys are gonna make me cry. But like, well, and it's interesting. Thank you for the very generous words, Ashley. But it's funny because even when I'm like, well, you're already like you're doing the badass thing, and you're like, not really. But like we were talking about this before you came on, we don't recognize the impact and the badassery within us, right? And so often we have to reflect that back to each other. And also before he came on, I was like, I've never seen so many badasses in one place like I do in Montana. But everybody else is like, oh, you're not talking about me. And I'm like, yes, I'm literally talking about you. And that's what makes Montana so special, because the reality is, even though, you're being so kind and saying like, oh, you drove 3 hours one way to like help, like all of you would have done the same thing for someone else. Right. And I think that's what I'm asking Billings and Greater Montana to see and acknowledge in themselves is like, it's not about being great. It's about just doing the right thing, just doing the next right thing that you have in your control. Right. And I mean, I'm thankful I do have, a toolkit of resources that I can deploy. And I have trusted contacts that I believe in, that I know do excellent work. And I can't help every, person, but I can help the person in front of me. And that's you, right? Like through serendipitous circumstances we've come to meet. And trust me, like I am equally sharpened by the interaction. And I've learned so much, and I've like my love for Montana is just even deeper now that I've gotten to meet, all of you, and even outside of this group, like all the folks we've come into contact with, whether it was the journalist or, Taylor or other volunteers or whatever it might be. Right. But I think the point is like, it's an all hands on deck situation. And I'm not saying that like, now's not the time for humility, but now's kind of not the time. Like Montana needs to stand in its power and say, no, we're not going to settle for piss poor leadership that isn't taking care of us, that isn't seeking justice, that isn't closing cases, that isn't right. Like, and that can be really hard to do for people who are service oriented and so loving. And it took me a long time to get here too. But what I always have to think of is the love I have for the people that we're called to serve. Right. So I always say, it was like I didn't do the work because I hate the predators. I do the work because I love the community. Just like we love Taylor and we love Ashley. Like that's why we are collectively supporting y'all in whatever way we can, right? That's why Matt, like his platform is storytelling, and he's such a good storyteller, and that's his superpower, right? And then Bailey's is organizing and just connecting with people on the doors, which is magical and it's amazing, right? So like I'm trying to be as like kind and direct, but basically I'm like, yo, Montana, it's go time, like right now. Like this is the year where democracy makes or breaks, period.
Right.
Yep.
Well, and I mean, just to point out what an alternative that is to what we're experiencing right now. We have Zinke and Danes and Downing who haven't been to a town hall in 3 years, and don't call anybody back when people reach out to them, and because this is like the powers that be are rich, and they don't have time for us. Like they don't. And the contrast to me is, and so this is just such a fun story, like just how serendipity, how. To me, it's a faith thing, but how God works through us. But like, so Sunshine Phelps is the tattoo artist who painted the mural at the skate park, and so that is because if anybody knows me, I have this total obsession with revitalizing the South Side skate park, because I work with at-risk underserved youth, and if they don't have something constructive to do, they go do something destructive. And so that place in our community is this microcosm of a lot of the nonprofits, but also a lot of the poverty and the crime and some of these things that we struggle with as a community. And so we painted that mural, and I literally went down and scraped human feces off that mural as Sunshine was painting it 7 different times. Right, so that like we went to war down there, right? To inject beauty and love into a place that was suffering. And I've asked a lot of people to come down there and experience that, because it's a place of power. Like if you go to that skate park, it impacts you. You can't like it changes you because you just feel it. It's such a hard place, and there's so much suffering there. But we have to take those places back. And Alani, you were the candidate that answered that call. And so we did an event for you at that skate park. And so all of this is so full circle, but it's all about, finding those abandoned places. I mean, I call them the rejected stones, and building there and loving there and fighting for those places, right? Because, I mean, wouldn't it be nice, I guess, if we could all, like Zinke, have our palace in California that we fly off to when we're ignoring Montanans? Like, that sounds great, I guess, but not really. Because, I just have to believe that Montanans, that Americans are tired of that. And we want somebody who's willing to stand up for the little guy. And Alani, I mean, we've got somebody who's willing to do that in you.
Yes. And we're all going to take this spirit to DC, and we're going to serve our fellow Montanans. And it's funny. I mean, we have legislators now around the country, like look at Mamdani, right? Whether you love or hate him, the man's getting things done. He just got their budget balanced, right? Mm-hmm. He got the sidewalks shoveled this winter, and people said it was impossible. But what I've seen about in government is it's always been in DC. Most of them are, I'm here because I want power and money. I'm going to bring my buddies who want power and money, and that's why nothing gets done. But as soon as you get someone who gets shit done and brings other people who get shit done, the shit gets done, right? So I mean, it's just as simple as that. And we all have the track record to prove that we are get shit done people, and Montana, like that's just who we are as a culture. So, man, this has been amazing. Thank you guys so much.
Well, so I have one more question, because I was hoping, hey, Bobby, Bobby's the man. I love actually just how Bobby has cheered you on through this whole thing. Like I don't know, man. It's and Alani too, your husband, is like, I just know he's got your back. And like, I remember when you were like, should I run? And you're kind of like, part of you's like, oh, maybe he's just going to shut this down and I can go, I'll actually sleep at night. And instead of having to carry the incredible responsibility that leadership is. And, he was like, no, go do it. And yeah, I mean, I think I'm that way for my wife. I'll talk about her later. She's just the most incredible human. But I don't know, like there's a spirit in that. Those of us who want to lift other people up, rather than trample on them, which is what I see a lot of right now. But Bobby, you're one of those people. I mean, we just that's the spirit. That's this revival of love and compassion, but also competence, and certainly your career is a demonstration that those things can be put together. And so the last thing, so I wanted to ask you, Bailey, though, what does it take to go knock on a door? And what does that look like when you go and do that? And what should anybody who's willing to go do that? And so I would also say, like, you don't have to be a volunteer. Like, you don't have to ask Alani's permission to go do this. Like, walk out your front door and go knock on your neighbor's door and say, hey, I know about this incredible candidate. Like, let's talk about what our state needs right now, what our city needs right now. Like, when you see something that inspires you come across your feed for the candidate that you're supporting, share it. Say why. Put yourself out there. And I just, like, there are these algorithms that we complain about all of the time, right? Because they're hijacked for outrage. But it's just us. They're authored by the things that we look at, the things that we share, and the things that we like. And we can take those things back by liking different things, by looking at different things, and by sharing different things. And so that's an enormous mechanism of impact and of outreach. And so take that back, right? Like, if you're just scrolling through mindless things, turn that time into campaigning for the people who are fighting for us, because we just need that. And so maybe last thing we cover, but Bailey, what does it take to go walk up to a stranger and knock on their door and say hi?
Yeah, for me, it's the desire for change, the desire to see something positive come out of our community. And by just taking the initiative to get out there and talk to your neighbors, talk to your colleagues, or talk to, people that you're passing by on the sidewalk as you're walking your dog, or whatever you may be doing. You may be taking your kid to the park, and you might be meeting with some other parents that are sitting on the bench, and you might be like, oh, hey, the conversation of maybe childcare comes up and you talk about Alani Bankhead's experience, in fighting against child predators, and what she has done in her service, and then that conversation expands from there. It is all about what you want to see go for, what you want to see for Montana and in general, and what you want to see for your own like community. Are you passionate about, seeing housing rates go down? Who do you want to represent that? Who has represented that? Nobody that we know of recently. Our housing rates have gone up 75%. Many Montanans are struggling just to keep their lights on because of the energy rate increases. Let's talk about that and what Alani Bankhead can do in Washington, D.C. to fight for your housing, for, your health care and so forth. It just takes you to be passionate about Lonnie as a candidate, to be out there talking to your neighbors, whether it's door knocking, whether it's making some phone calls, writing an op-ed to your local newspaper, or posting stuff on social media. We all have our different ways that we communicate, and most of the older generation doesn't do so much social media. Some do, some don't. That's why door knocking, meeting people where they're at, is highly beneficial for a campaign, especially where we're at in Alani's campaign right now, with just less than 3 weeks left before the primary election. Right now, we need to be coming together to get out that vote in support of Alani to get her through the primary.
I love Bailey. Should we leave it at that, Alani? What do you say?
Yeah. Well, no, I just want to thank everybody for coming today. It's always amazing to spend a little bit of time with you guys. And, at the end of the day, like, truly, you all inspire the hell out of me. I mean, like, when it gets hard and tiring, and it does, like, campaigning is really, really rough. These conversations just keep me going for days and days, because I'm just so thankful. I'm thankful to have met y'all. And, I'm going to carry your spirit and your stories with me to Washington. You guys are actually going to come with me to DC. I'm just telling you right now. So, but no, thank you. Thank you, Billings. Thank you, Greater Montana. I know we're going to get this done, and Montana gets to decide what kind of leadership and community they want to build. So it's up to us, right? So thank you all.
Thank you.
Let's freaking go.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, guys. I gotta hop off
Thanks,
for my
Ashley.
hospital duty.
Thank you, guys.
Don't be surprised if I'm blowing you up until midnight, because that's how late I'm gonna be here.
Thank you for listening to the Pay Love Forward podcast. If this conversation moved you, inspired you, or made you think, don't let it stop there. Pay Love Forward is more than a podcast. It's a movement, a community, and a way of being. At its heart is a simple commitment to invest in others in ways that multiply. In partnership with Resilient Stories, we're committed to hearing the story within the story, the deeper narrative of courage, compassion, and renewal that remind us of who we are as a moral people. If you'd like to walk with us, find a mentor, find a mentee, and join one of our community gatherings. You can connect through our Facebook group or visit www.payloveforward.net to learn more. Let's keep building something beautiful together.